The entire first season of the Ahsoka series is now streaming on Disney Plus, and we have a lot to discuss. Well, I do at least. I'm just going to say right off the bat, I am going to be getting into spoilers during this video, so if you have not watched the series yet, this is your chance to now go back and watch the series and then come back here and watch this video. That's 2 bits of entertainment for you, so yeah. Let's get started. I think for me, Ahsoka is probably in my top 3 favorite Jedi of all time. I know, yes, sorry, let me clarify, she's not a Jedi anymore, but I digress. I just really liked how she showed up in the Clone Wars and how over those 7 seasons and even into Star Wars Rebels, how well they developed her character and turned her into this somewhat kind of annoying sidekick to a really compelling character who kind of came into her own skin over time. And naturally, when they said that she was going to be in The Mandalorian, I was really excited because she is one of my favorite characters, but I also was kind of skeptical because I didn't know how that live action portrayal was going to be. I did think that Rosario Dawson was a great choice. I did think that she would look the part at least, but I was like, is she going to capture that personality? That was something that I wasn't sure about. And with The Mandalorian and her own show, I think just in general, I'm not a huge fan of her portrayal. And it's not really her fault. I'm just used to the animated, lively, kind of spunky version of Ahsoka. This is long after the events of Return of the Jedi, so I don't really expect her to still act like a kid. It's just like I'm watching her and all she's doing is just standing there and smirking and crossing her arms like this and doing things like that. And I'm like, this isn't Ahsoka to me. I know she crosses her arms in the cartoons a few times, but it's just like, where's her personality at? But this is why patience is very important, my friends, and we will get to that later. Sabine, Hera, Thrawn, and Chopper are also making their live screen debut, which is kind of interesting because it really does feel like this show is more of Star Wars Rebels Season 5 as opposed to Ahsoka's own show. It still is her own show, but this is more of a closure season for Star Wars Rebels, which I'm okay with. I didn't love Rebels. I mean, I liked it. I watched through it, but there was an element that felt like it was unresolved or like we weren't really sure how it was going to happen. So it is nice to have a little bit of closure with that story. And Sabine was another character that kind of threw me off a little bit because her personality is also just so different compared to how she is in Rebels versus now. I don't know if it was the actress. I don't know if they were telling her to act that way, but it just didn't feel like the normal Sabine that I was used to. Granted, I've only seen Rebels once, so I don't really remember how she was, but I do remember that she did have, like I said, a little bit more of a personality. She is able to survive stab wounds though, so there's that. But I'm saving one important character for last because they were the person that really made the show for me, and that's the character of Baylan, played by Ray Stevenson. I think he was easily the most compelling, the most interesting character in the entire show. Everything that he was doing was what I was really interested in. I didn't know anything about this guy. I didn't know if he was for the Sith, if he was for the Jedi, if he was previously a Jedi. We just didn't really know anything about him. And every time he was on screen, I was eager to learn so much more about him. And even at the end of this show, there's these unresolved things about this character. And that's also really frustrating and really depressing because Ray Stevenson has now passed on. And I feel like that is going to be an unresolved arc for his character. Yes, I'm sure that they'll recast him and finish the character's arc in some other way, shape, or form, but it's not going to be the same with how he portrays this character. I think he portrays this character beautifully. And for me, he's easily the standout in the show. His apprentice, Shin Hati, I think, was also a really interesting character. I'd like to see where they take her. I have a feeling that she'll probably end up fighting for the rebellion or whatever it is now. I don't know. But she does have a lot of potential to be a really compelling character as well, so I'm really excited to see where they go with her in later projects. This season is 8 episodes long, and I think that's the perfect amount for this kind of show. I feel like sometimes 6 episodes is too short, 10 episodes is too long. So this one fits right in the middle pocket of that runtime, and they actually use it very wisely. In my opinion, I didn't think there was an entire filler episode. There were episodes that were longer, that dragged a little bit, but even those episodes had a crazy revelation, or there was something to do with the character development or the world building or something like that. This is actually the second show this year where I was eagerly waiting for the next episode. And for a lot of these Disney Plus shows, it's more like just a chore to get through, like, okay, the next episode's up, I guess I'll just watch it. This was something where I was actually counting down the days until the next episode would air. And I haven't felt that way in a long time, especially with the Star Wars project. Even as much as I liked Andor, that was a show that I didn't finish until I think over the summer. And that's partly because they released the first 4 episodes first, so I was always 4 episodes behind. But this show always had me intrigued, always had me interested in what was going to happen next, and that just hasn't happened for me in a while. Episodes 4 and 5 are obviously the standouts. I think episode 4 is still my favorite episode, just because of how perfectly paced and how well the story is told in that episode. It just really stands out to me. But then we have episode 5, and yeah, I think we all knew that Hayden Christensen was going to show up in this show, but what they did with his character, how they portrayed Anakin, was just so well done. And the fact that they put my boy in his Clone Wars armor, like, get out of here, dude. That was something that I dreamed of seeing. I thought it would be cool if they did this, but I highly doubt that they would, and they actually did it. But it's not just how he looks, it's how he fully embodies that version of Clone Wars Anakin. His posture, his line delivery, how he speaks to Ahsoka, everything just speaks Clone Wars Anakin, and that's really hard to do, especially with an animated version of a character. He really paid attention to how Matt Lanter performs that version of the character, and that just speaks so much about him as an actor and how much he cares about this character. Not to mention that episode 5 had those Vader transitions, and then he did a callback to the episode 3 choreography. Like, it was just so insane. It was great to see young Ahsoka, it was great to see Rex, and it was ultimately one big fan service episode, but really, like, that doesn't matter to me. If a show is able to recapture the feelings I had when I was a kid and make me feel a certain way and reinvigorate my love for something, then I'm going to be appreciative of that. And I think it works better that there is one episode that's entirely for fan service, because you could run into a problem where the entire season is like that and then you just feel like it's just a nostalgia bomb for 8 hours. I would still enjoy that, but I would like to see something that actually progresses the story and furthers Ahsoka's story. Speaking on Ahsoka's story, my very complaint about how Ahsoka didn't have a personality was actually debunked pretty early on. And as I said, this is why patience is important, because Dave Filoni actually made it part of her character arc. And I noticed this in episode 5 during the Clone Wars flashbacks, because the older she gets, the more you see her crossing her arms, and then it clicked for me and I was like, oh, she gets more and more cold-hearted because of what she has seen. I apologize, Dave Filoni, and I will not second-guess you ever again. And then she does this whole transition where she goes from Gandalf the Grey to Gandalf the White. She still kind of has that reserved personality, but you can tell that there is a little bit more of light in her. There's a little bit of glimmer of hope, and just how pivotal Anakin's lesson was to her character development was just really cool to see. There's even that small little hint when she's fighting him, and he tells her, I don't remember what he says to her, but essentially she chooses not to fight him and she throws the lightsaber off to the side of the edge. And what's great about it is that she throws it the same way that Luke threw the lightsaber in Return of the Jedi, refusing to fight Darth Vader. Just all the little callbacks and details that this show did that brought Anakin's story, almost like they're continuing his story in a way that is so satisfying and so beautiful. And I just love how they're orchestrating this, and I'd love to see more of it. However, as great as episode 5 was, I do think that that's when the show peaks, and then 6, 7, and 8 I don't think are as good as episode 5. They're still good episodes, but it's never gonna reach that height of excitement. I loved seeing Ezra in live action. It's great to see him again. He's out there looking like Jesus, but I thought that it was still cool to see him. And I also really liked that the show ends somewhat on a cliffhanger, like our characters kind of lost. It's obviously leading to that big Mandoverse movie, and everything's going to come together and all the plot lines and all the storylines are going to connect somehow. But it was kind of cool to see our characters lose, and it made me want more. It made me want to see more and see how they're able to come together and solve this issue. My only issue, like my main issues, are just little nitpicks here and there as usual. And it's really just this, that Sabine is trying to use the Force throughout the entire season of the show. And of course, through a moment of stress, she's able to force grab her lightsaber and do all that kind of stuff. But my problem is that as soon as she does it, she's like a master at everything. She's perfect at everything. And I'm like, I get it. She can use the Force now. She can use her lightsaber. She knows how to fight. But it's the moment where she force pushes Ezra an extremely far distance away. That's the moment where I'm just like, no. I'm sure some Jedi have done that. They've been able to magically have all this power right away. But Sabine, to be able to do that quickly, I don't buy it. Other than that, and some of the performances of these characters, I loved just about everything about this show. I thought every episode was pretty much well paced. It was intriguing, it was satisfying, and even up to the final shot of the last episode, I thought was done very beautifully, with Anakin looking out at Ahsoka and Ahsoka looking back at him. It's just how they're doing this, what they're doing with these characters, and especially with Anakin's character, is just so beautiful, and I'm really happy to see it. Like, they're doing it, man. And they're doing it well. As of now, this is one of, if not my favorite Star Wars show. I think they did everything that Kenobi tried to do, but so much better. I think if they stick with these writers and producers and directors, I think we're gonna have a really good future for Star Wars live action projects. I hope you guys can check out the show as soon as you can. If you haven't, then I just spoiled it for you. But if you're still waiting to check this out, I think it's very much worth your time, and I hope you loved it as much as I did. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video. I'll see you again soon.